Hello and welcome to another casted game. This time we've got GiveUanxiety in the north playing the Abbasid dynasty. I'm casting another Abbasid game because it's the civilization I know the most. So I feel like that's pretty helpful for these early casts. And in the south, his opponent is Peenta, playing as the Holy Roman Empire. So, classic matchup here. Abbasid versus the HRE. What can we say about this? So, usually, HRE, they want to get up to Castle Age as quickly as they can and start grabbing those relics nice and early. And this is especially effective against the Abbasid as they tend to have a much slower age up timing, at least from my experience. So they may hang around in feudal for a little bit longer, which just makes it possibly a little more difficult to interrupt any any relic gathering that the HRE might be doing. Standard opener so far, 3 on gold for the HRE. I'll just swap these around. 7 on food, and similar over on the Abbasid side. Actually only has 2 on gold, so it's a little different to what I would normally expect. Usually you put, well, I think I've been putting 4 on gold in my game, so 2 is interesting. We'll have a bit of a slower age up, I imagine. But we'll see. This is interesting. A little bit of a difference. Maybe just a little macro mistake from GUA. Who knows? So, nice little deer packs on this map. This map is Hill and Dale. Very safe deer for both players behind the base. The bases tend to be very safe. On this map, it's not too difficult to get some walls up, especially on the backside of the bases. Nice and short distance to wall, which just keeps you secure. However, your resources run out very quickly. You do only have the 1 small gold vein and 1 small stone in the base. You will find most of the resources do appear along the middle of the map. Many large stone and gold resources, and all 3 of the sacred sites are also around the middle of the map. So you do have to move out. You can't play this one too passively, which is, it's good. It means we should get a bit of action. We've got the Archon Chapel coming down for the HRE. Now, this acts as a resource drop-off point, and it inspires villagers. I think it's villagers. I'm not sure if military units get inspired. I'll have to double check that at some point. And that just speeds up the villager gathering rate. So yes, very good. It's an area of effect prelate, basically. Not the best spot, I think. Usually you want it, on some gold. Get some gold up nice and quick. Maybe even on the deer. He is only covering the stone resource here. He will be able to get farms around the side at some point. We do have the military wing coming for the Abbasid. It's just about to finish. That will give him 2 archers and 2 spearmen. We should see them pop out just now. Let's ride on board with these, see where he heads them over. Now, he could head them over to the gold to prevent the HRE from gathering that gold nice and quick and getting himself up into the Castle Age. That would probably be the opportune choice. We'll see. Can we see where they're headed? Can't see their route where they're headed, I suppose. But yes, I imagine they'll head towards this gold mine. But Peenta is preempting this. He's got 2 men-at-arms out already. They will make easy work of this little group. High armor, 3 armor, archers doing 5 damage, so only doing 2 damage per hit, and the spearmen aren't going to be doing too much damage to the men-at-arms either. They have an attack of 7, and they have an armor of 3, so 4 damage. Has managed to already get 3 men-at-arms out, so pretty solid defense coming out of the HRE. Managing to split the forces of the Abbasid player, really getting very minimal damage done. A few little pokes from the spearman here. Probably not even going to get a villager kill here. He does keep him off the gold for just a little bit, I suppose, which will delay the castle age probably only by a few seconds coming out of the HRE. HRE does have 8 on wood, so curious as to how he's going to be spending that wood, whether it's more production. He does have a couple of farms, which is definitely interesting. I've not seen that before. Usually you just get a mill out onto the deer if you want quick food. So actually going for an archery range. So definitely not the classic fast castle into relic pickup strategy here for the HRE. A little bit more harassment here coming in from the Abbasid. I imagine he, after spotting this archery range, he knows that it's going to be more of an aggressive game going forwards. A few more horsemen coming in, able to outrun the men-at-arms, so could get some harassment down, but the HRE player has done a good job in positioning his men-at-arms in the right places. They're just going to chase this horseman out of here, I imagine. So yeah, not getting too much done. Let's take a look back at the Abbasid space. Camel archers coming out. Now these are great against the HRE, specifically against the men-at-arms, or the man-at-arms I should say. They are not plural. It is just a single man-at-arms. So yes, the camel rider archer. These have damage of 12. So the armor that the men-at-arms are getting, this 3 ranged armor, is pretty negated. These camel archers are still going to be doing a good 9 damage, which is very good. 120 health on the men-at-arms. You know, 2 is not going to cut it, especially if there's archers backing up the men-at-arms. But in larger numbers, the camel archers can kite the men-at-arms very easily and just pick them off slowly over time. We do see 6 camel archers almost out on the field. Love to see it, really. Camels, one of my favorite units in the game. I'm very excited for the Ayyubids coming up in the expansion, the variant civilization of the Abbasid dynasty. They are even heavier on camels. They actually prefer camels. That is the Ayyubids. So probably going to change my main civilization over to the Ayyubids as they come out. More horsemen trying to come around the back, get some harassment in down the back side. We mentioned earlier that it's quite easy to wall off this map, but neither player are actually doing that. A couple of walls, which the HRE could definitely afford. Plenty of wood in the bank, just to cover up these rear entrances. It would just help to funnel the Abbasids' entry into the front of the base. Significant army now for the HRE, 28 to 13. The Abbasids trying to push in with some camels, but this massive archers, these will shred through these camel archers despite their high health of 140. You know, not too sure what the game plan is here for either player. They are kind of just meandering around, not too much specific damage coming off. Neither side looking to mass up resources to go into Castle Age. But the HRE has decided he has enough force now to start moving out. So he's going to try and chase these camel archers down. I mean, any one of these that he can pick off is very valuable. These cost 180 food and 60 wood. So very expensive, especially on the old food count. the Abbasid player has 14 villagers up here on the deer camp and is almost out of deer. Has moved over to this north berry bush as to not run out of food. There's very food intensive units. More units just being picked off here by the HRE. The Abbasid player has looped his camel's background. Still no damage. It's one villager down. Or one villager killed, sorry, for the Abbasid. So nowhere near enough damage done. You know, any sort of significant amount. If these archers push in, they will start taking out these camels. But luckily enough, they are faster than the archers. So they do manage to get away there. Attacks on all fronts here coming from the Abbasid player. Not too bad. The HRE will lose his scout now, but I don't know if GiveUanxiety is paying attention to these camels. He's got a couple on single-digit health. Very, very valuable camels. You do not want to be losing any of those, really. Forcing a bit of idle time as the villagers move from one wood spot to the other. But yes, let's see what else is happening in the Abbasid player's base. Obviously, very strangely, no second expansion coming out whatsoever. And also, despite the no expansion, the army number is in the HRE's favor quite significantly. But like we mentioned before, the camel archers are very valuable, and that's a lot of resources going down there for no reason, really. So although the military numbers look in favor, it would probably be a fairly even fight. There aren't any spearmen in the HRE's army. So the horsemen would, they'd stick around for a little bit. This might just end up being a rather large feudal battle to just see who decides this game, really. Villager numbers fairly even. GiveUanxiety, 2 or 3 up on the HRE player. But a bit more harass coming out from the Abbasid player. May take out his 4th villager. Very nice. So just the constant harassment probably wearing down the HRE, both in terms of villagers and attention. He does have his significant army, 54, outside the Abbasid's player base, but he is ready. He is very ready for this. So we'll see. He's moving around the base. Not really doing too much. Finally has some walls coming in on the back side, but just a few units down here can really slow things down. He is having to keep a significant force back at his base, just in case of these raids and these run-bys. Looks like he will deal with this now, though. At least one horseman going down. Large force moving out here for the Abbasids. It's a large camel force, which you love to see. Big wall-offs coming out to protect these precious food resources. There is a second deer pack here, so very, very valuable for the Abbasid player. That's very good. Let's go into cinematic mode for this one. Big engagement here. I mean, these camel archers are aiming for the archers first. Interesting. I guess they're the ones doing the actual damage to the camel archers, and they're the most valuable unit here. Pretty even so far. Camel archers getting a lot of work done, but as you can see on the bodies that litter the ground, many camel archers have gone down, which, as we mentioned before, is a lot of resources pumped into these. You can see the total population count: 90 over 140 to 67 over 90. So huge, hugely in favour of the HRE player. Still neither player looking to go to castle. They're just very much involved in this feudal battle. Still resupplying the army on the back line for the Abbasid. He's going to try and see if there's any routes in the back of the base, but they've all been secured up now. A couple of more camel archers coming in. But the HRE very safe. very safe food. He's transitioned into farms nice and early, so he hasn't had to push out of his base. I imagine if this kept up for, you know, a significant amount of time, the Abbasid could start to secure up resources outside of his immediate base area and just slowly start to starve out the HRE player with all these raids and run-bys, distracting the whole army over on this east side of the map now, as another army pushes in the front. So, you know, all sorts of stuff going on now. Raids everywhere, keeping the HRE player on his toes. Always things to look out for. Despite having these walls now at the back of the base to shore that defense up, he's being pushed and pulled all over the place. You know, more raids coming down here. And possibly going to see a big engagement again around the middle of the map. The army values looking like double for the HRE player, but if the Abbasid can catch some of these units off guard, he didn't actually go all in there. Well, it's quite a big surround coming out for the HRE player on this very mobile Abbasid army, so he does manage to get out of that pinch, but he's incredibly spread out now. His horsemen have left the fight. They are down here trying to swing around on some of the archers, but I just don't think the Abbasid has the sheer numbers to deal with all the men-at-arms, because these archers are doing a lot of damage to the camel archers of the Abbasid player, and his horsemen have sort of left the camels on their own. Camels are great units, but they need some sort of front line just to help deal with all the men-at-arms that are chasing them. And the archers are just free firing on all these camels on the back line. The army numbers not looking great. Horsemen do manage to attack the back line. Very spread out fight here. They're basically split horsemen v men-at-arms and camel archers versus regular archers. It looks like the men-at-arms very significantly won that battle, so they're going to come and attack the camel archers on this top side. This is looking pretty bad for the Abbasid player, and GUA does call it there after being completely overwhelmed by the feudal force of the HRE. Men-at-arms and archers. Who would have thought? Okay, so bit of a back and forth, a few raids there coming out from the Abbasid dynasty, but not enough to stop the relentless force from the HRE. Yeah, so after the games I want to do a quick analysis both on the gameplay and any strategies that I might have missed during the cast, and then also just any feedback you guys have. I'll probably respond in this little segment here if you leave any comments on any videos or anything like that. So first off, thanks for getting to the end of the video, and if there is anything you want to say, make sure you put it down below in the comments. Anything, you know, all helps to make a better video going forward. So based on the game, very surprising strategy coming out from the Holy Roman Empire in this one. Obviously a lot of gold and relics all in the middle of the map, but choosing to ignore all of those and just building a very substantial man-at-arms and archer force, and the Abbasid player just unable to deal with the sheer numbers. So I think that just comes down to the cost of the composition that the Abbasid was going for. Just couldn't get out the sheer volume that the HRE did. The camel archers, as well as costing a lot, they also take a very long time to train. So a couple of factors there, but interesting game nonetheless. If you are an HRE player, maybe next time you're against the Abbasid, just mass feudal men-at-arms with some archers thrown in for good measure. Not too sure what the Abbasid could have done there, really. Possibly trying to tech up himself to Castle Age, just to get some crossbowmen. might have helped. Some gulams of his own, the Abbasids' version of the man-at-arms, they would have helped significantly. But it didn't happen. Not in this one. So yes, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks again for sticking around. Let me know any comments down below. Thank you. See ya.